Hello, friend.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh,
How are
geez.
you?
The light is hitting my head weird. Okay. I'm good. How are you?
I am better now that I am here with you. I'm so excited.
Is that like an old school like Pizza Hut cup?
Yes, my dad steals these from the local Heralds here at Cave Creek. He says instead of getting a styrofoam cup, he just likes to take these. His garage is full of them. I cannot believe that they still let him walk out with their cups.
Those things are classic.
Right?
I always call them Pizza Hut cups because that's just what I remember them always getting them at.
Right, totally. Well,
Yeah.
it's so nice to finally meet you in person. I feel like
Yeah.
I know you already. I watch you all the time.
So, do you prefer being called Nikki or Nicole, or does it matter?
I really like to be called Nikki. I feel like Nicole is very formal. So,
Oh my God, I'm the same way about my name. Like, I hate when people call me Michael. I'm like, I am not that old. Don't call me Michael.
not my father. Yes, Nikki is great. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Cool. All right. So, everyone who is here, this is Nikki Wasilishin. That's how you say the name, right?
You nailed it.
Okay, sweet. And so she's here to talk about her mom's story, Stephanie, which I covered her case a couple weeks ago. But this was in Sedona, correct? Sedona, Arizona?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very, very
Mhm.
beautiful location. I've
It's
only been there like
gorgeous.
once, but so I'm also in Arizona, as you know. So, but I'm in, the Phoenix area. But you were 10 years old, correct? When this
Yes, it was like 17 days before my 11th birthday. I was supposed to get a TV that year. Like it was a big event and we didn't make it that far. So I was almost 11.
Well, so I guess tell us about what you remember first about your mom, like who she was. Tell us about Stephanie.
Oh, thank you for asking about her. Sometimes I feel like she gets lost in all this, and this is who it's all about and who it's always been about. But my mom was really young when she had me. She had had a couple abortions prior to having me, so when she had me, she knew she wanted me. Her and my dad, they struggled on this because he wasn't ready to be a parent yet, and she put her foot down, and she had me at 19 years old. And I kind of grew with my mom. She didn't know what the fuck she was doing, and I was with her for like along the ride for her 20s, and we figured it out. Like, if you ever notice my hand, like my hand is crushed, that's because
Oh,
one day during a move, my mom wasn't watching where my hand was, and they pulled the lever of a Tommy gate, like tailgate, and it came up and
uh-huh.
crushed my hand. It just shows
Ouch.
like how young my mom was when she had me. Um, a free spirit. Yeah, I know. Ouch, right? Gnarly.
War
My
wounds.
mom was a free spirit. She had three sisters and two brothers, big family. I remember a lot of big family reunions and get-togethers, and there was a lot of laughs. Um, we weren't rich, but I didn't even realize at the time that we were poor white trash. I didn't know that when I was 10. I thought like I had the most beautiful mother, and like I thought I was rich in a lot of other ways, and I won't realize it until after my mother died that we were poor white trash, and that is kind of the reason why my mom's case never went any further, because the man that will ultimately pull the trigger, his family had money.
Uh,
So
yeah,
money
that
really does
usually.
rule the world.
Yep, that money always talks. Money always does all the work, unfortunately. Sometimes for good, sometimes for bad.
Yeah,
A lot of times for
unfortunately.
bad.
Yeah. And my
Yeah.
mom's case were bad. So she was really young. She'll break up with my dad in her 20s, and then she'll meet Russell. And I was about 4 or 5. And that's the man that will eventually take her life during a crime of passion. He was mad, grabbed a gun, and she's been gone for 30 years. And here I am, older than my mom now by 9 years, and I'm still waiting for some kind of accountability, some kind of answers. And that's why I talk to you.
So, how did she meet Russell? Was that through work, right?
It was, yes.
Yeah.
The Sheraton Crescent Hotel. It's a hotel down in Central Phoenix. It's down I-17. It's called something else now. I'm sure you drive by it all the time. Um,
Probably not. I don't drive much.
okay, but she met him. He was the executive chef. She was just like a pastry chef. He was bigger than life to her, and she was captivated because he was all the opposite of my dad. My dad was a construction worker, fair skin, blue eyed. This guy was Italian, fluent in Italian, dark skin, olive skin, dark hair, and he could cook. And he romanced my mom, and she fell hard for him. But the relationship won't last, and that one will ultimately fall apart as well. And my mom will want to leave Russell and go back to my dad, and that is what took her life, was that decision. Right. And Russell never allowed her to actually leave.
Was domestic like violence or abuse was that prevalent in their home life that you can remember? Or
always yelling. I wasn't aware that families didn't yell, and that wasn't the way that women communicated until I was old enough. And always yelling. I never saw any fist going, but they were always yelling at each other. They're always going at it. And in the case file, it is quoted as saying that my mom reported over 50 times domestic violence. And domestic violence is more than swinging a fist around. It's verbal, it's emotional. And he hammered her down for a lot of years, to the point where she started stepping out on him and was cheating. And she had an open relationship with this guy that came and fixed our screen door. So she was all ready to leave on the night of July 8th. And when she called my dad, and my dad happened to have an empty house, his girlfriend had left. It was like the perfect storm. And so they proceeded for the next hour to make plans for her to leave that weekend, because Russell was going out of town, pack up the girls, the animals, and she was coming back. And they had a whole bunch of dirty talk. And I don't know.
I was going to say, so what the conversation started like around 8 or 9 p.m. that night?
Yeah,
on the phone?
8:06. My mom will call my dad.
And then, so who called who? Did he call her, or?
My mom called my dad, and my dad says that when she called that night, he did not expect her to, tell him that she wanted to come back. It was just going to be like another phone call, like, I need money. But the conversation quickly turned because my mom was so upset. She was upset with Russell using money, going out of town, not spending any time with her, drinking too much. And it had all built up. So my mom just started telling my dad all this. And like I said, my dad had an empty house. He was like, why don't we give it another go? And at that time, she was all for it. She was like, I'll leave this weekend. And they made those plans. It was 106 minutes. How long is that? That's what the phone bill says in evidence.
A little less than 2 hours ish, I think.
My mom and my dad would talk for 5-10 minutes, give me money. That was it. This was that's why my dad, whenever I ask my dad about that last phone call, he'll always bring up the dirty talk, because that's what he remembers. Like, that is what stands out to him, as the last memories of my mom was her just going at it.
That's a guy for you, I guess. Straight guy for you. Did you actually hear any of the conversation? Because you had already gone to bed, or no?
I know that on this night, my mom was on the phone a bunch, because before she talked to my dad, she was on the phone with my mom. She was supposed to be having a date night with Russell, but the babysitter got called into work, and he had to work late. So she's on the phone bitching to Wendy about how he's not spending any time. Again, he's going out of town using Disneyland money. I'm sick of it. Then she gets on the phone with my dad, Craig, like an hour later. She's already been drinking at this time, does the same spiel. I tell you, it's a synopsis of what already happened. Then she gets back on the phone with my aunt again. So all night long, I hear my mom going, be quiet, go to your room, go play outside. Like, she was, because in the 90s, you're stuck to the kitchen phone was attached to the wall. Or, she had the big cordless, and the big cordless, she'd be on the couch. But I remember her being in the kitchen a bunch that night, attached to that kitchen wall, talking to the Aunt Wendy and to my dad and making all these plans on leaving.
And then there was another phone call around 11 something, right? Where
11:20.
Your dad's number is called by your house from your home.
Very astute of you to gather that too. So I had already gone to bed. I remember saying goodnight to my mom at around 11, and my dad doesn't even remember a phone call. So he was already long asleep. But by now, Russell's in the house. So one of the first things that he does is, I'm assuming, goes to the telephone and maybe star 69s it or redials. I don't know if they had star 69 in the 90s, but somebody definitely called my dad again. Was that him? Was it my mom? I
And
remember
that's
him already being home by then. At 11:20, he was already in the house when that telephone call was placed.
and that was like only a few seconds long because no one picked up, so the
No,
call was
yeah,
only a few seconds.
yeah. It didn't. It must have gone to like my dad's voicemail maybe because it was less than a minute.
And so, why do you think Russell would have like? Why would he have done that? Why would he have hit redial or call or star 69?
Because she was actively cheating with the screen man, so she was already swinging her stuff around Sedona with.
Oh, okay.
So
So he was just being
he was on to her. So she had told my dad that night that Russell had been recording her telephone calls. So back in the 90s, you can go to some place called Spy Headquarters and you could buy a little tape recorder and you could plug it into your home line. And he had been doing that. And so my dad will keep referring to that recorder. There's no evidence of this. There is no evidence that this ever existed, but my dad always holds firm to the fact that he was recording my mom's calls because she will tell him that and repeat it all night long. So that's why she was extra super vulgar, because she knew Russell was going to be listening to it. So that's why my dad was not used to my mom talking this way. So she had an ulterior motive to just swing her mouth around. And he got home, figured out that she called or what happened, and that recorder came into play, and he got mad.
Do you think the fact that it was your dad that he called or that she called, do you think that's what really triggered him into like, cause did you, I know you were asleep, but didn't your sister or something like hear an argument between the two of them?
Yeah, she was awake. If you listen to the 911 call, you'll hear my little sister in the background. She was very alert when the police arrived on scene. She was in the bedroom on the bed when our dead mom's on the ground. Like she'd been touching mom, putting the blood back in mommy, shaking mom, trying to wake her up. Like
How old was she?
she was almost 4, so she was
Oh my
3.
gosh.
Her birthday's in August, so she was almost 4, and the
Wow.
fight, them yelling, must have woke her up, and she was coming down the hall when my mom dropped. So she saw my mom fall. It's been contested whether she actually witnessed it or not. I know that in the case file, she'll repeat as a 3-year-old that Poppy killed mommy 13 times in her case file or in her interview, but they'll say that she didn't witness it. I don't know. That's why the Sedona Police Department's still looking for my sister. She's been missing. I haven't been able to find her for 3 years.
I didn't wait. What? Your sister's missing?
She went underground during this. When all this started to pop back up in 2020, she ran. I mean, she witnessed it. She's not ready to deal with it yet. So I haven't. She called me initially in July of 2020, and she's the one that said, hey, the Sedona Police Department's looking back into mom's case. They're calling me. They want to talk to me. And I didn't want to talk to her. And that's the last I've ever talked to her.
Why would she not want to, like, why do you think she wouldn't want to help them?
She saw that trauma. I'm sure she doesn't want to. I'm sure she still tries to have. Maybe she has a relationship with her dad. I don't know. It took me 28 years just to read my mom's case.
Oh, because Russell's her dad.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's
shit.
not
Okay.
my dad. That's her dad. That's why this is way more traumatic for her than it is for me. And it took me 28 years just to read my mom's case file. I do not fault her at all. It took me listening to the 911 call and reading my mom's case file and reading her interview to realize that my sister's been through a lot. I got a lot of apologizing to do on my end because of our falling out, because our life has been rough, and I really need to give her a little bit more credit. So if my sister's listening, if anybody knows my sister, Christina Wasilishin Peterson in Phoenix, I'm looking for her, can't find her. I know she's running and dodging me, so.
Especially that young, potentially seeing something that horrific. Not only is it your mom the victim, but your dad maybe, or is probably the killer, her dad. So it's like, that's like a double whammy for her, I'm sure.
She'll repeat, Poppy killed mommy in the car that night, in the squad car. But a year later, when I see her, because we won't see her for a year later, when we finally see her for Disneyland, she'll tell me that mommy killed herself. What was he doing? What was he telling her?
Right, because Russell was with her that whole time, correct?
Yep, and he got custody of her.
Yeah.
So I can't fault her for running from this, but at some point she does need to get her head out of the sand and join the fight here. Like, I need her help. The Sedona Police Department needs her help to finally close this. So she said, that the 13 times, whatever, but did she ever say, like, she saw what happened, or just that she saw, like, mommy fall? Like, did she ever
insinuate that she may have actually seen the gunshot?
Yes, but the interviewer will confuse her, tell her you have to I can send you it's like 7 pages. I can send you her interview. Like, I'm shaking. Like, I don't like to read it. It's very stressful for me because it sounds like the 90s cop is trying to persuade her to say something and change her mind, and it's just like she's so candid. She's like, "Mommy fell. Mommy's dead, and I won't have a mommy anymore." So it's just
I get it. It's that's gotta be I wouldn't want to relive that either, or have to read that either.
She makes it very clear what her little 3-year-old eyes saw, and she saw her poppy kill her mommy. But then a year later, she's saying mommy killed herself, and that's the story she'll hold to, because he'll keep her away from us till she's old enough to run away when she's like 14, and that's when she finally.
Just so everyone here who's watching, like, has like an account of this. So like, what Russell states happens is they got into an argument. From what I remember, didn't he say something about it was because of like he had to go to some work thing or some for his chef thing?
Right. Yeah, he was going to Ithaca, New York for a culinary training. Like the Pietro's restaurant was paying for this big fancy course that he was going to learn, and they bought him these new knives, and my mom was so jealous that he was going and that they chose him, and it was all about him. My mom's dead on a slab, and he somehow turns it into she was jealous he was going to a cooking course. When it came down to my mom couldn't give 2 shits, she was upset that he wasn't giving her any attention. She was a 30-something-year-old woman. She wanted it, so then she started stepping out. The only reason she stayed as long as she did was because of the kid. She was stuck because of my sister, or she would have rolled out years before. So when she finally gets the nerve to leave, and she runs her potty mouth, that's what ended up getting her. That is not. You have the right to say whatever you want. You have the right to cheat. Nobody has the right to take your life. But he was just a jealous, narcissistic man. And after 7 years, my mom was a possession, because that's the way I guess men thought in the 90s. And they got away with it. He got away with it. I can't believe I'm sitting here with you today talking about
that way. Yeah. So is he basically, from what it sounds like, he's almost victim blaming? Like, he's saying she started this argument, and then he says she runs into the room to get the gun, a gun she's never touched before, correct?
Correct.
And then she threatens to shoot him with it?
Yeah, because
that's what he said.
Yeah, that's what he says. That's the best story he can come up with. And apparently that was pretty good to get him away with murder for 30 years. Chicky P. I might put my dog away because I thought maybe coming outside.
I got a bunch of them here, so you're good. So I guess so what he's saying is that there was, like, I guess, an altercation between the two of them, right? And that's why the gun. He's admitting to an altercation.
Yes, he's admitting to an altercation, but he's not admitting to the actual context behind the argument.
Okay, I forgot to ask you this originally when we were first talking, because he says she fired 1 round, right, first?
Yeah, that's what he claims.
Did they ever find the bullet hole to prove that?
They retrieved a bullet casing from the front of my home, so it would be right by the front door.
So they confirmed there was 1 shot fired.
Correct.
Not at someone, just at a wall or whatever.
That there was a shot fired, and let remind you, this shot would have been towards my bedroom. Do you really think that a woman would have taken the risk of shooting towards her daughter's bedroom? But that is what he claims.
I don't think a mother would do that in the house at any direction with their children within feet of them. I mean, we can't sit here and say for absolute certainty, but I don't know many loving moms that would do that. So then the first shot goes off, and then he says that he tries to go towards her, and they fight or whatever happens.
He claims that coming out of the bedroom, my mom raises a gun, says, "Russell, I'm going to shoot you." She shot at him and turns around, doesn't wait to see if it connected, turns around on her heel as if to do his first story as a murder-suicide, as if to turn around and go into the bedroom and shoot herself. But he follows her right away, and a struggle ensues over the weapon. But then he realizes that story falls apart. you know, he goes through like
Yeah.
3 variations of the story because
Yes.
he's trying to not make this murder. He says, I don't want to be accused of murder.
And
It
so
was an accident. I know it was an accident. He grabbed a gun to intimidate my mom, waving it around like the big man. You're not leaving me. You're not leaving with my daughter. And she put her hands up and started fighting. A struggle did ensue over the weapon. But
yeah,
Mikey, who grabbed the weapon first? He's
right.
lying that my mom grabbed it to get his ass clear of murder. And
And
it's
my other issue that I had when I read or about her story is she was shot through the neck, correct?
right, yeah, like right
This
here, and it blew out the back of her neck.
so it went that way.
Yes,
Who does that to themselves intentionally?
exactly.
I mean, most people know if you're gonna, because that's gonna obviously not end you immediately. That's gonna be painful. That makes no sense as to why someone would do that deliberately to themselves and not just like this or whatever, like most people. So
The
that makes
medical examiner will state that it was defensive posture and positioning because the gunpowder will tell stories. And the gunpowder that they find is that my mom didn't have any on her right hand. It'll only be on her left hand, as in defensive posture and positioning. Like the medical examiner said, her hand was up in defense when that gun went off. She
okay,
didn't
now
pull the trigger. This is what happened. And for some reason, the Sedona Police Department and the Yavapai County's Attorney's Office are going against the medical examiner's findings. I don't understand that. Do you?
well, probably because that means they have to do more work.
I guess. Yeah.
I unfortunately, when I tell a lot of these stories, you see the same thing all the time where it's like, well, what's the easiest way to fix just to end this and solve this by saying, she did it to herself. Ugh, that's, it's just so much work to have to prove the gun was in his hand. And because they didn't do a gunshot residue test on his hands, correct?
Nope, they did not. They put him in the same car as the kids. They didn't take gunpowder residue on his hands. They let him sit in the clothes during like 3 hours of interrogations. There were so many missed opportunities.
Yeah, it's like, why would you not test his hands just to be on the safe side? Like just to say, hey, let's do our due diligence. It's not a like a slow test. It's a quick little test they can do. I know how they do that little pricky pokey thing or whatever that is they do. I'm not sure if that's how they did it back then or not, but I know it doesn't take much time to do a gunshot residue test on the hand. It seems insane to me.
The best I can come up with in my family, because for a lot of years I thought it was a cover-up. Like I was like, there's no way that he got away with this. It has to be a cover-up. But reinvestigating it now as an adult and looking back, my aunt has it nailed. They were a rookie organization. Up until 1989, the Sedona area was policed by the Verde Valley Police. So in 1993, the organization that investigated my mom's murder was a 4-year organization. My mom's homicide was probably one of the first ones they investigated.
Yeah.
They had so many missed opportunities, and that is why Russell Bennett Peterson has gotten away with murder. At this point, I'm more upset with the organization that has continued to fail my mom for 30 years than the man that took her life in a split-second crime of passion.
And you know what's another thing to me is that 911 call. It drives me nuts because he is the calmest that I've ever heard a person who just witnessed someone they love, get shot through the neck. Like that's not a spot where you are like, oh, she'll be okay. That's a spot like this is bad. And he is the most calm and chill that I've ever heard. He's just like, yeah, she was shot. I don't know, but maybe I did it. Maybe she did it. I don't know. Like, and that's also in the call where he's like, when they asked her, well, who shot who? And he's like, maybe I did, or maybe she did. Like, hello.
It's eerie, isn't it? Listening to how calm. It's like he's saying that, he's reporting my dog just got away on leash and she got hit by a car.
Yeah.
That is how he's reporting my mom's murder. It's very distressing. It took my family 29 years to listen to that call because they never released it to my family. The only reason we got that a week before Fox News sat down with Sedona Police Department. All of a sudden, it ends up in a package at my aunt's house, a zip drive with the 911 call, all its interrogations, and they apologize it's taken them this long because they're working with old technology. This is what I'm working with. This is what my family has been up against for decades. The only thing that got them moving a little was Fox News. Media moves mountains. It's fucked that it took my family almost 3 decades to listen to that. And when I heard it for the first time, I had to stand away from my family and look at a wall because I was so shocked by how calm he was. That was the first thing I said too. I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's that's like is that Fox 10 News for you too, or is it okay? I'm not sure, but like it's the same for all of Arizona. But so they found her case, or how did that come to be?
It's just always been on Sedona shelves, but they haven't really cared enough to, I guess, flash her case over to new technology. I don't know.
What does that even mean?
I'm not really sure. There's a letter that they sent to us last year. It's a 5-paragraph letter, and the 5th paragraph addresses the fact that they have been working diligently to get a complete case files to us, but they are working with old technology. Are you serious?
Isn't
the only reason they're moving is because Fox News is making them move because they want all this information. It's really sad that they haven't cared about my mom, and the only reason they're doing anything now is because I had to get the news involved, but they're still not doing anything. I sat down with the investigators for the first time at the beginning of this year, and they essentially just looked across the table at me like, well, what do you want me to do? It's been 30 years. He's going to have to confess. They don't want to do anything. They didn't even know that my mom and my dad made all these plans to leave until this year.
So did the Sedona Police Department ever properly interview your dad?
My dad said in 1993, an investigator called him over the telephone. My dad says that he tried to express what their telephone conversation entailed. He said that the cop yelled at him, and he never had a sit-down interview with Sedona Police Department until February of 2023, almost 30 years later. And that's only because I wrote to Sedona City Council. I'm not letting this go. It's always been there. This was a jealous boyfriend. It's just that it's been covered up, or it's just been forgotten about. That like my mom was very upset. She wanted to leave, made plans to leave. The boyfriend's here. His story's never changed. I grew up with this man. He has had the same story all my life. The dirty talk all my life, Mikey. That's when you've watched the Fox News story when Sergeant Leon says, we don't know what it was about money, about this, like that. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Even years later, they still don't know. I had to get involved. And they didn't want to talk to me because I didn't witness anything. That's why I got involved and am so passionately angry, because they never even wanted to interview me. It's like she's murdered all over again with the Sedona Police Department trouncing all over her memory. It's ridiculous.
So they interviewed your sister, but they've never interviewed you.
They tried to interview my sister in person, but she keeps dodging this. It was all like, via email.
But back then, originally.
In like as kids? Oh no, we were both interviewed as children.
Oh, okay. They interviewed you too. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I had nothing really to add to it at that time because I didn't witness anything. But that doesn't mean that I didn't know in context the bigger picture. Clearly, I'm the only one that knew. I grew up with the man that she was planning on leaving the suspect for. Craig Daly, again, has had the same story all my life. And for some reason, the Sedona Police Department has never sat down with him in person. When I read my dad the case file and his interview in the case file, it's half a page, like 3 little paragraphs. And my dad's like, I didn't say that. That's not what I said, Nikki. Nope. And it was the Yavapai County's investigator that interviewed my dad. Yavapai County.
Well, I think the reason why is because your dad is essentially the motive. Your dad is the reason. He is not the reason why she's dead. He is the reason why Russell did what he did. Right. And so interviewing him would mean that they hear his story and they're going to be like, oh shit, okay, so that's a motive, and so that's a legitimate motive, and it lines up with the timing because we can look at the phone calls, we can look at the phone records, we can see there was a 2-hour conversation, then we can see that there was another attempt to call, your dad, and it would line up and make sense.
But they never did that in 1993. I don't know why.
Probably it could be a mix of they were inexperienced and also they didn't want to put in the extra work. I've noticed that a lot. It's unfortunate, but it happens a lot where they're just like, I just want the easiest path to solving this. And that's why you get so many false confessions to cases, and that's why you get so many wrongful convictions, because police are just like, ugh, what's just the easiest thing for us to do?
It's disgustingly sad, Mikey.
Yeah. Yeah. I just posted a video to my YouTube channel today about how a 17-year-old kid was coerced into confessing to killing his own parents because the police didn't want to do the work. He spent 18 years in prison for it, and then he's finally got released. And it's just like, it happens so much. And that's probably what's happening here, is they just didn't want to do the work, probably because they were inexperienced, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And now you're 30 years later, and now they're like, well, we don't have any physical evidence because we didn't do anything. We don't have in the moment interviews with, like, say, people like your dad. So they've walked themselves into a corner.
Yeah, and they just want me to go away, and they treat me like shit, and they've accused me of harassing them by, putting shit on my social media, and yeah.
It's not harassment when you want justice for your mother.
I just want accountability and answers, and they make me feel like a criminal.
Every person, every victim of a crime, no matter who or what they are, they're a victim of a crime and they deserve justice. They should get that justice. It's equal justice for everyone, and they should know that, of all people. But it's for them, it's like they don't want to say it's too late to do the work, but that's probably the reason. They probably are, no, it's too late for us to actually, because like they said, you would basically need Russell to confess, is what it kind of sounds like.
That's what they're going with.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally, that's what they're going with. Like, there isn't, I think I've watched too much true crime. I'm like, there's no other way we could prove that this man killed this woman. Reenactments, a little bit of money.
Yeah.
My mom's not worth the money. She wasn't worth the money then, nor is she worth the money now. We got to make her worth it. So media pressure.
The thing they do have is they can look at the trajectory of the bullet, and there are some very smart people. I've seen plenty of forensic files where they're like, well, the bullet was fired at 12 inches and blah, 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 and it went into, like, at this angle, and it was not possible for this person to do it themselves. And so they can then say, okay, well, it had to be someone else who pulled the trigger. I mean, they do it. It happens.
Yeah, it comes down to money. I got to do my own ballistics testing, but I got to come up with the money. I've applied for a grant with Sarah Turney's organization to try to get some money to test the gun again. But
is the gun still in evidence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the questions I asked.
They actually have it still?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Do they have the bullet and everything? And
Yep.
What else do they have? What else, like, physical evidence do they have?
They have 2 full pages of evidence list.
Oh.
Lots of stuff. Lots, like, the broken jewelry, my mom's clothing, stuff that they took from the room that night with, like, backsplattered, like, blood on, like, some pictures, like, lots of stuff. There's 2 full pages of inventoried evidence.
But none of it is Russell's stuff, like Russell's clothing?
Some of it is Russell's clothing that they finally took into evidence after interrogating him for several hours.
I wonder if they can take gunshot powder off of that still. I'm not sure how long that lasts. I don't know.
Or the fact that, because he'll get remarried right after this, and that lady will become my mom's or my sister's stepmom. So years later, when my little sister runs away, she runs to her stepmom. And by then, this lady and Russell were divorced. But her name is Diane, and Diane will tell me so much of what Russell will tell her. Pillow talk on the night of the murder. He will confess what he did to my mother, to Diane Peterson. He will tell her that he takes a shower before he calls 911, that he started laundry before he calls 911. He's calling his dad. He does all this stuff because he has a 25-minute window between when the fight occurred, my mom died, when that altercation happened, and when he calls 911 at 1:40.
I was going to ask you, because I saw that phone list, and there was a call made what was that, the call after the time frame she would have been killed? There was a call I saw, but I don't know who was that to. Did you guys ever know?
It was at 1:36, and it took my family until 2022 to discover who that telephone call was placed to. He will call his father, Kenneth Peterson, in Glendale, Arizona. They will talk for about a minute, and 4 minutes later,
after she has been shot.
After the altercation. It is in the case file that the altercation starts at 1:15. The Red Rock News reports the 1:15, like they are fighting at 1:15. But he's calling his dad at 1:36, and then 4 minutes later, he's calling 911. That 4-minute window really puts a dirty taste in my mouth. It always has.
He said he moved the gun. Is that correct? He put it away?
Yeah, he put it back up in the closet. The only reason he did that is because his daughter is now down the hall and sees what he did. So he picks the gun up to get the gun away from her and put it back up in the closet, but then even admits, no, that's stupid. It's already happened. I put the gun back. So he's fucking with evidence. He's admitted to fucking with evidence.
That right there is a crime in itself, by the way, tampering with a crime scene and evidence. I mean, he actually has admitted he did it.
Correct.
Like, I moved the gun after the fact. That's a big no-no. But you'd think they'd be able to at least do something with that, like this fact that he lied about that. But so the shooting happens. He calls his dad in Glendale for a minute, which is a very bizarre length of time. I really would love to know what he said. Like,
I'm pretty sure his dad called him back to not leave traces of it on that line. So.
Okay.
His dad, because he had 4 minutes. So he's still, because it lasted 1 minute, there's still 3 minutes before he finally calls 911. So what was his dad telling him on doing? So according to what he'll later relay to Diane Peterson, in that time, he's showering, he's, putting a load of laundry in. So to your question about gun, powder residue on him, what if they do test it and there's none at all? Shouldn't there be gunpowder residue all over him?
Yeah.
And he never mentions that 1:36 phone call to the investigators. It took the family having to find that and the phone stuff and call that out and ask the investigators what's up with that. They never investigated that then.
And they never asked.
They didn't even get the phone bill until October of 93. My mom was murdered in July, August, September, October. 3 months later, they get the phone bill only because they let the suspect bring it in. They didn't subpoena for it. They didn't go for it themselves. They didn't go for bank records. They didn't go for work records. They just let this all off of hearsay on what the suspect's account of everything was. So his account is that she was jealous. She wanted to kill me. And that's what happened. And they literally ran with that. She was a domestic violence victim. And 30 years later, I'm going to prove it.
Yeah. So what do you exactly think happened? Like, do you think it was an accidental shooting, or do you think he intentionally, decidedly, premeditatedly did it?
Not at all. It was definitely a crime of passion. He didn't come home from work at 11 o'clock that night and want to kill my mom at all. Not at all. He came home from work that night, was drunk, found out that my mom made these plans, and it went downhill very quickly because he grabbed a gun to intimidate my mom, and a struggle ensued over that weapon. I've always been a firm believer that they did struggle over the weapon, but who grabbed the weapon first? He's trying to place blame on my mom, essentially victim blaming, by saying she grabbed it first, when that's not what happened. He's just a jealous boyfriend. He found out his girlfriend did dirty talk, had planned on leaving this weekend, and not only that, but she planned on leaving with his kid. Even in the case file, he admits that Stacy has threatened to leave him with his child before, and that is what's pushed buttons. It's all in the case file. The documentary team, like, there's going to be a documentary released on all this nonsense, and they've spent 5 months researching all of this, and they sent me a document a couple weeks ago, and that researcher broke down every time he brings up my mom's or that phone call with my dad, and it's just, I want to say dozens of times, but that might be an exaggeration, but he brings up my dad's name in that phone call more than the cops are asking about it. Like, it's all there in black and white. They just didn't pursue it. And so when the documentary team comes out and they're going to show you, in his words, each and every time, he brings up Craig, it's going to make the Sedona Police Department look really bad.
Wait, are these based on like the interrogation tapes or Oh, so they have all of those recordings of his interviews.
That is correct.
And so now the documentary team has all of those.
That is correct.
Have you heard them?
Well, I have read them because they're in the case file, and I have heard all of them. Yeah, there's 3 of them.
Is he always as calm as he was in that 911 call? Does he always seem very composed?
Yes, it's very disgusting. There's snippets of it in the Fox News. There's snippets of all of his
Oh
interrogations.
yeah. I think I played some of them actually in my video.
Mhm.
Now that I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
it's
it. Yeah.
frustrating. You see how I get
Yeah.
upset? Like I get nervous. I'm drinking a
Yeah.
lot. This stuff like stresses me out. I'm shaking. I even brought a blanket out here in case like I started to like get the chills. So just work with me here. Yeah, it gets me upset. I'm fired up. But yeah,
Um,
it's frustrating.
so how are they going to be like this documentary team? Are they going to be doing like interviews with you as well and like putting this on like what television or?
Yeah, yes, yeah. It takes a lot, takes years to make a documentary, a film. It starts with the document, the research timeline is what the director called it, a timeline. He gives his researcher a topic and she goes out there and researches the fuck out of it and documents everything and like, oh, it's impressive. I kind of thought that they had forgotten about me because I know that it takes a long time and this isn't on my dime. They're producing a
They're doing
documentary
it, yeah.
on their dime, and I'm very grateful. And I had hit him up. You know who Sarah Turney is, right?
I've heard the name, yeah.
Her dad just was acquitted of her sister's murder, and that was a couple months ago. And I actually touched base with him on the day that happened, and I was because Sarah's the whole reason I started this. Like, if Sarah couldn't get any charges, any justice, like I kind of felt defeated. So I reached out to him that day. You guys. And I was like, hey, don't forget about my mom. I don't think I can fight another 10 years or whatever. It's only been 30 years. And the next day or two, he touched base with his researcher and was like, get me together everything you got on the timeline because I need to send it to her. She's starting to get dissuaded with everything. And I got that document and I read it to my dad. And Mikey, my dad does not like listen to me read. And he listened to me for over an hour, read the whole document because a lot of the document is about my dad. And they're proving the point with Russell's own words. It's going to be they've done what other film? It's won awards. You can get it on Amazon. It's very impressive. And I'm very humbled that through the true crime podcast community, I was able to touch base with 314 Bird Studios. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's what you have to do at this point, unfortunately, because the police don't seem to want to do anything. So the best thing to do is that's why this documentary is a great little fuel to add to the fire, because the more seen this story is, the more aware the police become that now everyone is aware. I will bring up the situation, like there's the Grant and Gracie Solomon case in Tennessee. Like no one really knew about it, and now Nancy Grace is going to be covering it because of all of the mass media coverage of like true crime content creators, on YouTube, on TikTok, and Instagram, and so now it takes a while, for people like that to see it, but like eventually the right people will see the story and catch on to it, just like with Nancy Grace with that story. You have a documentary team with you, and that might lead to another big thing, like someone like Investigation Discovery or Nancy Grace or whoever it may be. It's like you just need that one big thing, and that could put enough pressure on police to be like, well, maybe we should do something, because there's no statute of limitations on murder, and so even if it's a crime of passion, manslaughter, whatever you want to call it, third degree murder or whatever, it's still murder. He still killed someone.
Thank you. Yes.
And it's still, he'll be running the rest of his life from it, because
I feel that way too.
They can arrest him at any point they want to. There's no statute of limitations. And so I hope he's scared, to be honest with you. Where is
down to a little bit of money. If I had money to get those, those forensic people, so I can get some reenactments, it'd be a different story. But instead, I'm here prostituting my mom's story and myself out to try to get views, to get people like you to help me. It's really sad what we got to do, but I appreciate you so much.
By the way, you should never have to pay a creator to cover your mom's story. It's just like, I get that all like, I can pay you. I'm like, no, you're not going to pay me. It's just, I'll just cover the damn story. It seems weird to me that there are people out there that will like require you to pay them, like, I mean, content creator wise, to like cover your mom's story. If they actually cared about this stuff, they should just cover the damn story. Like,
and that's why people love you. And that's why we love you.
It's just about getting the story out there And, you know, the more it's just about getting eyes on the story is really what it is.
At this point, I don't care. I will pay to get views. I have paid
No, I
other
get it. I
content
get it.
creators. I did offer you, and just to be honest, what we're talking about is I did have followers donate to me to get my mom's story out there. We offered to pay Mikey to do the video. He declined it. He did not. I wanted to take him to lunch. I asked him like 3 different times, do you want this money? And he kept no. So he's
No.
amazing. That's why we're talking about that. There are other content creators that I have solicited for videos. I don't care. I'll do anything to get my mom's
No, I
story.
mean, you got to do. I'm just. You have to do what you have to do. I'm just saying it. You shouldn't have to do that. Is what I mean. Like you shouldn't. You shouldn't have that kind of like pressure on you to be like, oh my god, I'll pay you whatever you need to like do this. Like you shouldn't. I understand that why you do it, and you obviously got to do what's best to get your mom's story out there. I'm just saying you shouldn't have to. That's.
You want to hear something funny
crazy.
too? And on that note, you know, I'm recently like single. I'm on these dating apps. I'm on Tinder. And if it says that you're a lawyer, oh, you're swiping right. And then I am soliciting, I am prostituting myself out. Like not literally, but I am asking these guys, if you're a lawyer, can I pick your brain? And I am asking these guys. And then like the one guy was like, so are you looking for a date? I was like, not really. I was just looking for some advice. Not my style, not my speed. But that's like where we're at. Like if you know anything about
do
law,
what you gotta
I need to
do.
talk to you.
It's all about just getting the story to someone, right?
Yeah,
So
there's
you
no
gotta do it.
shame here. I'm like, no shame at all.
And you know what? That just shows how passionate you are about getting justice for your mom, and that's you're going to whatever lengths you have to go to, and that's all
we're
that
at.
matters. It's all that matters.
That's where we're at. So if you're a lawyer, do you know anything? You're in content creation, you're a true crimer, you're in podcast, I want to talk to you. It has been a while since we released a podcast. Mikey was well enough to do this live stream today. I haven't had a podcast released in months. So just the fact that my mom's story goes a little like cold.
Yeah, and I'll once I'm hoping because last week I did this with the mother of Andra Adams, and the live stream on my end wouldn't freaking download. So I had to have her download her copy and Dropbox it to me because I like to post these to YouTube afterwards. That way it's always there for people to see. And it's just like I just hope the recording works. If not, just
my dogs are barking in the background. Great.
If my recording doesn't work, just a heads up, you may have to download your recording. I don't know. I'll find out. I'll probably wait until tomorrow to download it because maybe that's why it didn't work. So I rushed it. I don't know, but
doubtful. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on it. Yeah, we'll download.
So I'll see. But yeah, this will be posted to my YouTube sometime over the next few days or so, hopefully. That way everyone could see this because it's always best to hear the stories directly from the family. I've just learned that recently. So yeah. It's always best if you can get a family member to actually talk about the actual story of their family member. That's probably the best approach. And so, and you were there. You were there when this happened. And I guess it's a good thing that you didn't hear it, or I don't know, it's kind of bittersweet, I guess, that you didn't witness it, but you also kind of wish you did because you would know.
The doctors tell me I have borderline post-traumatic stress disorder because I relive the minutes from the cops waking me up because the cops won't be able to find my light. It'll traumatize me because they'll have to shine a flashlight at me to wake me up. I don't know why cops are in my room. I freak out just by walking through the house. I remember seeing Russell on the couch rocking. He had blood on his hands. There's cops standing all around him. I remember this. I have dreams about this every night, especially now within the last couple of years because I'm talking about it a lot. So they call it borderline because I didn't see my mom murder. I just relived the minutes after it happened. It's awful.
Yeah, it's still traumatic. It's still, I mean, well, one, your mom was killed. That's one thing. And reliving the after effects of that is still pretty damn traumatic, especially with all the cops and with blood everywhere and all that. Where is Russell, by the way? Where is he now?
He's here in Phoenix. So if you know your people, you're in Phoenix too. His mom lives down the west side. The cops were there. So Fox News was there asking she's covering for him. We don't know where he's at. The Sedona Police Department would like comment.
But they didn't interview Russell, right? Fox News.
Nope, he's ducking the Sedona Police Department,
right.
Fox News. He's ducking anybody I send his way. I got a private investigator to get me a list of numbers. I thought one of the numbers was my sister. I called it. I either talked to Russell or I talked to his son. And when they found out it was me, they hung up on me. And I couldn't believe I'd actually talked to Russell. That was like at the beginning of this year. A lot has happened this year. A lot has happened the last 2 years since I got involved in this. Nothing would have happened if I didn't get involved in this. And God bless my aunt who had been doing this for 30 years. She's getting nowhere because she's knocking on the door of the Sedona Police Department and they're just saying, go away. And it's the media. It has been the media from beginning. Like Sarah Turney is the one that told me to get on TikTok. If it wasn't for this dancing app, I wouldn't know you today.
Yeah, that's the way the world has evolved now. It's the world of social media now.
Yeah.
So it's.
I had no idea you had to be your own journalist.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to be.
So yeah, when did you get involved in this? Like, how long have you been involved in content creating true crime?
Just 2.5 years, I think, is when I started doing it.
Why? Let me ask you that.
I've just always
turned on to this.
I've always been obsessed, I guess, with like justice, and like how the first story that really got me into like I want to talk about stories is the Making a Murderer case, the Stephen Avery one. I don't know what you feel. I feel like he's innocent and Brendan Dassey's innocent. That's just how I feel. But regardless of their innocence or guilt, I see that story and see like how much wrong was done, how much injustice was done, how much, because he was framed for one crime, many years earlier. I'm like, that's normal. And I'm like, the more stories I read and see, like, that is normal. That happens a lot. And it's just, that's why I like to especially cover like unsolved cases, because those are the ones that don't actually have answers to them. And that's another reason why I do this, is because like, I know I'm just this little peon creator within billions of true crime people, but what if the right person sees the one video you post about a particular story that's not solved, and then they're like, oh shit, I remember this. Oh my God, like what if? It's
what
just
if?
the what if of like, you don't know which story might get the right eye and solve a case. Like, it's just like, if you could help get justice for one person, hey, I think it's worth it.
I love it. I love your energy, your vibe, and I'm the same way. 2015, when I first watched Making a Murderer, I was riveted. And I saw that, okay, growing up, I watched A&E, Bill Curtis present cold case files and American Justice in a very like old, crusty kind of way, but I still dug it. Like, I watched that shit religiously growing up. But here we go, 2015, and you're presenting this true crime in a whole new way on Netflix. Guys, and I was so into it, and I don't know anymore, but I was totally 100% convinced he's innocent. This is fucked up. Like, what if I got my mom's case on here? So I'm 100% with you. Did you know about Candace Owens, the new doc? Okay. Yeah. I've only watched the first 2 episodes. I'm trying to look at it like with an open mind, but it's hard to watch with her.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I don't know if I can do that, but I'll just like get the cliff notes from someone.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying, but I mean, she puts up some good arguments, but then you can't really trust her with an open mind because it's Candace Owens.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very difficult. But yeah, I mean, and Making a Murderer is really kind of, in my opinion, Making a Murderer is really what jump-started this newfound craze of true crime, because when that show came on, I started to notice this like absolute snowball effect of like, more true crime shows. Now Netflix has a true crime docuseries, I feel like every goddamn day. And it's just like, it's because they know, I mean, yeah, a lot of people are like, why are you into true crime? It's so insensitive and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, 1, because people find this stuff interesting. 2, because it's also an educational thing where you can go like, oh shit, that happened to that person. Now I know what to avoid. I know the things to look out for. And then 3, you might actually help solve something. There's like plenty of reasons why people are now so heavily invested in this. I think a lot of like fans of true crime are just like, they're like me, there's just like this obsession with like seeing how these things played out, seeing the evidence. I love to see evidence. Like I love to see like photos and stuff like that, and I like to hear the phone calls, the 911 calls, and I don't know. I'm fascinated by all of it. It's just multifaceted.
I am as well. I grew up on it. I always had a dream that my mom would be on one of these shows one day, but I never thought it was going to be myself bringing it to the producers. Like, I always thought the cops would do something, but that never happened.
Well, maybe, hopefully they will now. Fingers crossed.
With one documentary comes a whole bunch. So in 5 years, the staircase took a decade to make. So that's why I know it's gonna take a while to get out. But maybe in 5 years there'll be a half dozen documentaries.
They made a freaking HBO show out of that one. So
I loved your owl video. Your owl video. Can we just stop? Take a time out. We address the third theory.
The owl theory.
It is believable. The wounds. They line up. Oh, look at he's turning red.
It's why I have Peterson the owl behind me. That's the whole reason. He's the reason why.
I will drink that Kool-Aid on the owl theory. They sold it for me 100%.
When I first heard it, I was like, this is asinine. This is bizarre. This is so stupid. But then when they actually showed how it would have been done on that HBO show, I was like, oh shit. Okay. That may have happened. I still think he killed her, but I'm like, that could have reasonably happened at the same time. Even though Michael Peterson definitely bashed her head in, but it could have still happened. So it's like...
They sold it for me. What the staircase okay. Sorry, I was just reading my comments on my end. I want to, again, your owl video, I was in my room just cracking up. I'm like, this is such a like-minded guy. I love this guy. That's why, like, if you're ever willing to, like, meet in real life, would love to sit down with you because you are a riot. I watched you before you even covered my mom's story. And actually, a couple days ago, somebody from the old rescue I used to work at sent me one of my video, like screenshotted. She goes, oh my God, you're doing a live stream with Mikey. I love this guy. So you're like famous in, true crime world. So I appreciate you.
Kind of, I guess.
Just a little bit of a baller. Look at with the glasses. Perfect timing for whoever dropped the shades. That was dope.
I did not do that.
Bravo.
Well, so one last question: how old is I called him Peterson because of Russell Peterson the owl. That's why the staircase. Okay, how old is Russell now?
He was a year younger than my mom, so I think he's like 61 or 62. I'd have to look at the math.
So he's got plenty of time to rot in prison. So.
I hope so.
Yeah.
My dad says that he's already living a miserable life, running from the law and living with his mom. But I'm like, I want to take his freedom, dude. Like he took my mom's life. I want to take him for everything he's worth.
Yeah, and I hope you do. I hope you get that, and I hope maybe he's watching, right? Maybe like, hi, maybe you're out there watching this. Maybe you'll watch the live afterwards. I don't know, but if you're out there, you
I'm never gonna stop. I'll never stop. I waited 28 years to start getting involved in this, and now I'm just making up for lost time.
So what would you, if he was watching in theory, what would you say right now?
Just confess, and your life would be a whole lot easier. If you had confessed, we can get your second-degree manslaughter. You could be in, you could be out, you could still live your life, because I'm not gonna ever stop. I'll be coming for you on your deathbed. I'll be outside waiting with the cops. So just get it over with now, please. I've asked you before. I've asked your family to ask you to please just confess to what you've done, and then this can all just be over.
Yeah, and it probably wouldn't be the rest of his life either. If it's like a third-degree kind of thing or manslaughter thing, it probably would be like, they probably would let him do like an 8 to 10 year thing. Because I see it all the time. But you know what? It's like, it's something at least. It's someone being held accountable.
And at this point, I had somebody else ask me, if he admitted it, would you let him off with no jail time? Abso-fucking-lutely. If he admitted it and the state allowed it, just to cop up to it, I let him go with no jail time. Admit it to the world. Stand up on a fucking public square and tell the world what you done, and I'll let you go. But that's not my decision.
Yeah. No, that's pretty strong. I would be like, no, I want you to go to jail. That's just me, but I would probably be like, no, there's no way in hell. I want you to at least serve 1 year in prison. At least
Right?
be
Yeah.
someone's bitch in prison for a year,
That's
you
the
know?
hope. Every day I wake up hoping that the cops have emailed me, but every day I wake up and it's just another, we're going to roll on to another year of here I go, year 3 of me trying to champion for some kind of justice. We'll see how many years it takes me.
Well,
Third
you keep on
generation.
going. You just keep going. You just keep going. Take breaks in the interim though, because it will weigh you down eventually.
Right.
So it's like you got to take some mental health breaks. But then, yeah, I mean, you got that documentary thing coming. And that could lead to more. Try to reach out to more content creators here on TikTok, because the more creators that tell the story, the more likely it is that people will see it, and the more likely that people will actually do something.
Exactly. So
It's all about putting pressure. Pressure.
If you want to talk to me, let's book something.
Yeah.
I do appreciate you taking the time to do this with me.
Of course. So yeah, this will be, I'll have this posted to YouTube hopefully over the weekend. If I need your copy of it, I'll let you know. So yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to say to anyone at all?
No, just thanks for your patience. I get all like jazzed up and I get nervous and I start yelling. I think I need to take a Xanax before these things.
It's totally chill. I get it. Yeah. I
Love you, Mikey. One day when you want to crawl out of your hole, you let me know.
when my borderline agoraphobia probably finally goes away, maybe one day. You know, when you tell true crime stories every single day, your brain tends to get paranoid. You're like, I don't need to leave my house, man, because I don't. Not to mention, like, I think about things like this, like, oh, what if Russell does see this? Or I also think about, like, because I talk a lot about the Grant Solomon case. I'm like, what if those people get mad at me? That's how my paranoid brain works. It's like, what if they try to take me out? Even though I know that won't happen, but it's just how my brain works. So.
Right.
Well, I still do it because I don't care. But in the end,
Well, we both need to be on Xanax before these.
Yes, absolutely.
This was fun. So if you ever want to do it again, let me know.
Okay.
All right.
Well, you have a good rest of your night.
Bye, Mikey. I'll see you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, guys.